done it again. I've burned out the motor for the power feed on the surface grinder, and the way I did it was I was going by what was in the manual, and I engaged the feed and saw that the table was moving in the wrong direction. So I reversed 2 wires, but what I didn't know was that you ought not to reverse just any 2 wires. You ought to reverse lines 2 and 3 on a 3-phase motor. I reversed line 1 and 2. And so after I connected it again, I got just a humming. So this would need to be rewound. Either that or I put a new motor on there. And that's what I've got here. I've got a new motor that is almost identical, although it is the same in the more important areas. It's the same RPM, the same duty. It must be continuous duty, reversible of course, and this is a 1/4 horsepower. This was a 1/6 horsepower. The difference other than that is that this one is face mounted and the spacing of the bolts is 4 1/8, where this one was 4 inches, and so I've got to devise a way to mount this to the motor assembly on the surface grinder. Besides that, I also have to make an extension for the spindle, because you could probably already tell the spindle on this one was extra long so that it could reach into the machine where that worm screw has to engage with the worm gear and all of that. Let me shoot you straight here. That motor you saw was the original motor, but then what's this motor? Well, I burned this one out too, in a similar way. This one was, let's say, the prototype for what I'm doing this time. But it allowed me to solve at least 2 problems that we're going to be addressing. The length of the spindle, and this is the adapter for the spindle to make it longer. And the other thing I had to solve was the distance of the bolt holes on the original motor was 4 inches, and this one was less than that. And so what I made were these studs with a tapped and threaded hole. So I've sawed off about 1 5/8 inches off of the spindle and then cleaned it up here. Now our adapter will go on there, and let's get this fit onto the motor. I've trimmed some off of the spindle adapter itself, and let's see how this will fit into our motor assembly now. And what I can do now is see if the spindle adapter I made will move up. Yep, okay, that moved up a little bit, so now that must be all the way into that bearing raceway. So now I've set this spindle adapter to the spot on this motor's spindle where the bearing is fully inside of this bearing journal, and this motor is now ready to get reinstalled on this and everything else reinstalled on the machine. The motor's on and it's spinning freely. Everything's back together and the knockoff is doing what it does. So let's get this thing back on the machine. Now everything is put back together on the machine, and before I start it off, I just want to say one thing about the lubrication on it. last shop ran grease, and grease will catch stuff, and it's hard to get out. So I want to use oil in this machine instead, and so I've made from a mini grease gun I took out the spring and the lever on the end of this, and I soldered a Coke bottle cap to the back of it, and that came out good. It's not leaking oil out of the back of it, and it's working good so far. This is probably, I think, the simplest way this can be done. I've seen some far more kind of complicated conversions of a grease gun to a oil gun. And this is, if I melt the solder on this, this is just, electrical or plumbing solder. This cap will come off. It could be a grease gun again if I wanted it to. Anyway, and it works just fine. I haven't done this one yet, so. Yep, and it's tough to get off. I think one mistake I made with the original way I was trying to power the machine was to run it off of a VFD. What I have instead now is I switched to a rotary phase converter, and I've got a 3 horsepower motor down there on the floor out of sight. And so let's fire this thing up, huh? Alright, let's see this thing go. That moved in the wrong direction. Okay. I've switched lines 2 and 3 at the motor, and I've put everything back and double checked that I did what I thought I did. And so now let's fire it up, and let's see if this table will now move to the left like it's supposed to when I engage the power feed. Motor still runs, that's good. So now I want this table to move towards me to the left. Yeah, it does. That's what it's supposed to do. Alright. That's it. My goodness. I can see at this point now that the real restoration part of this machine is complete. I fixed my mistake that I made with the motor and all my other mistakes. I've started to level the machine already. I've got it leveled, kind of a rough level already done. I've got to do the fine leveling, and then what I've got to do is I've got to have a way to balance my wheels on the arbor. And once I've got my wheels balanced on the arbor, I can dress the mag chuck, and then I'm really ready to use this machine, I think. Well, that's it for this video. In the next one, we're going to make an arbor for balancing the grinding wheels on the hubs, and a couple of other things. I'll catch you later.